Getting lost in Vivec isn't something to be ashamed of. At least, that's what I kept telling myself as I circled St. Olm's Canton for the 5th or 6th time. I'd already lost count. I was sure I hadn't crossed the bridge to any of the other districts, but each time I rounded another corner, an entirely new crowd of faces met my horizon. The faces of busy, hopeless metropolitan clods who were doomed to barely know of the lovely hinterland just beyond the city. I must have pitied them just as much as they pitied me for being lost. Each time I'd ask a sullen street vendor for directions and follow them, I would only find myself all the more disoriented. Was I ever going to find my way to the Elven Nations Cornerclub to deliver my strut at the dance-off? I had put so much into my routine, and everybody who was somebody would be there watching. All the high counselors were slated to attend. Even Almalexia herself was rumored to be putting together a troupe this year. But it didn't look like poor old Dagoth was even going to make it out of St. Olm's. I was beginning to doubt myself. I was beginning to doubt ever setting foot outside the ghost fence at all. Most of all, I was beginning to doubt anyone cared about the fashionable entrance I had planned. Had I known the blocky sameness of those megaliths would confound me so, I would have made a reservation weeks ahead without question. But even a god has trouble getting reservations in the big city. My feet hurt. The luggage in my hand weighed heavy on a tired wrist. And so finally I sat right there in the middle of the street, exhausted, confused, defeated. I laid my head in my hands to let out a soft whimper and a hidden tear, only hoping now that nobody would notice my shame amid the bustling stampede of ambivalent, servile drones. Then, just as all hope had faded, a husky Dunmer voice chimed in my ear, saying, "Is this how you honor the 6th house and the tribe unmourned?" I took my hands from my mask and looked beside me, and lo, there stood none other than Archcanon Tholer Sarioni of the temple proper, my hero. Clasping my hand in his, he pulled me triumphantly to my feet, and meeting my surprised and tearful gaze with a confident smirk, he simply and boldly proclaimed that we would both make it to the Elven Nations Dance-Off, together. I'd never been more relieved in my immortal life. As he led us up the steep climbs of the Cantatonis ramps to our destination, I asked him why. Why would he want to help me, the very antithesis of his faith, to the dance floor? The goodly Mer simply beamed and stated that if he was going to win the solo heat, he wanted it to be against a worthy opponent. I blushed with glee. Truly, this was going to be the greatest dance-off of the age, perhaps even in all of Tamrielic history. I began to shiver with excitement and glee, finally regaining my pride as I realized we were going to make it after all. Suddenly he stopped at the top of the ramp. A swift stop. A startling and worried stop. My heart ceased its euphoric climb just as suddenly as he did. And as he turned to me, a pale shade of Dunmerry purple, I began to sweat. He met my eyes with a sullen fear only the most sorry fool could bear, and softly asked, "Did we start at the Redoran Canton, or did we meet near the arena?" I went as pallid pink as he and stated that I was sure we'd met in St. Olm's. Frantically, we began racing from bridge to bridge, stopping only at street signs to regain our bearings. But our time was running swifter than we, and our options were running out entirely. Finally, Tholer snapped his fingers and shouted our salvation. "Divine intervention scrolls!" He proclaimed, "There's a shrine in the Hlalu Plaza, there's got to be." Together we clasped that scroll as though it were our last prayer, and instantly we were whisked straight to the shrine of the foreign quarter canal works. I glared at Tholer with the incredulity of 1,000 ordinators. The poor sod quaked and shriveled in a heap on the carpet, whimpering like a sorry pet after soiling its master's prized rug. It was then I realized what this dance-off was doing to me, what it was doing to everyone. It disgusted me. I strode purposefully out of that chamber, and finally seeing the one bridge out of the forlorn city, I took it, not once looking back. Months later, after having put the whole ordeal out of my mind, a rumor reached me that it had actually been cancelled the very day before. Apparently Vivec himself had gotten lost halfway over the bridge of the Temple District and decided to call the whole thing off. Typical.